Today, Precarious plays
Fire Emblem.
I'm going to talk about D&D again.
Okay, that's appropriate.
But I've got... Hold on, before that, there's something that I've had a note. We're like several episodes now about something that I wanted to talk about before that. Sonya might be the strongest character in this game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sonya. Short hair?
No, the Envy.
Oh. We killed her last chapter?
No, we didn't.
That's...
And neither did Brendan Reed. Like, that's my point. We fought Sonya after she had been dealt presumably a significant wound, a substantial wound, by Brendan Reed. And then she actually somehow survived our assault. And then went on to die later. It took like 3 different forces. A member of the Black Fang, a member from our army, and then someone from... maybe someone from Nurgle's forces to kill her. That's ambiguous. I'm still not sure if someone dealt her a killing blow, or if she just finally expired from her wounds. I'd have to, like, re-examine the specific text in her final scene to determine that. So I just wanted to point that out, wanted to give credit where credit is due. She was not the nicest person, put mildly, yeah. But
she's very, very, very strong.
You might want to use the Iron Sword, because it might allow Hector and Lynn to, well, never mind.
I could just use Lynn first.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's the one. It's probably the way.
Especially because everybody up here is going to have... Well, let me check. I think everyone up here has spears.
Yeah, they have to have spears because they're not promoted yet.
Yep. Sticks.
Stickman.
Stickman.
John, Ed, and Dave Stickman, the Stickman brothers. Sorry, I'm still just on that idea. Like, every one of these soldiers has a story, you know?
Yeah.
So now these 3 knights are brothers. See, the Stickman family, they're actually Masons first and foremost. Their father's father built those 3... Well, probably once in his life.
Crit. Thank you, Lynn.
That was a big ask. She only had a 9%. Why would you exhaust your luck supply so early on something like that? You renegade rogue.
I just thought that it was important, because if I get him out of the way, I can park him up here and leave her in less danger.
That's true. Make sure that he doesn't leave his sword on then. Though, I think it...
Yeah.
But back to the Stickmans. Their father's father built those 3 forts that they're standing on. That's why they came out together. It's to guard their family legacy.
Oh my gosh. I love this map.
Yeah.
I love this map because it's just... it's all coming together, man.
That Berserker wouldn't happen to have a Sword Reaver or a Killer Axe. Oh.
Hand axe.
Okay.
That's why I keep opening up all these menus to check weapons, because there are a lot of curveball weapons on this map.
Oh yeah, no.
Which is that's the only crazy pitfall that I've seen. Shoot. Forgot to check.
Now, what do you want to hear about first? Do you want to hear about my... Oh no, I should talk about that first. Bale asked me to. In the last recording session, I was talking about using the enlarge spell to make a really big fighter
Yeah.
who would then use a ballista.
As just a crossbow.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and that might not actually be as wildly unnecessary as I thought before, because I looked up the spell afterward. And the wording, there are 2 sections of the enlarged spell that are important for this conversation. The first one says that as soon as if you drop an object, it immediately reverts back to its usual size. And that's likely to prevent
Like weird, difficult terrain from happening
and just I would think, my first thought is, oh, well, you could have somebody carry a bunch of different weapons, and then after they're enlarged, they could, like, pass them out to the group for the duration of the spell. Now, I don't like the language there, dropped. That seems like a very specific action. And
Yeah.
it's weird that they didn't just go ahead and say, like, if this object leaves your possession.
Right.
If it is separated from your physical form. Because I think that someone could make a very manipulative argument, admittedly accurate but manipulative argument, that I did not drop my sword. It was on my hip, and I purposefully had my party member retrieve this now giant sword. This sword, which was a long sword, which I will now argue should be used as a great sword. And in that particular case, I don't know if I would even care to argue against it, just because if they really just wanted, if that was like a spur of the moment, like, I'm gonna use a great sword instead of a long sword because we're fighting something that's really big, and it has like Monster Hunter imagery.
Yeah,
you know?
it does.
I think that I would be fine with that if it became like a reoccurring theme. Like if everybody after that point
It was just like, here, hold this for me.
Yeah, hold all of our magic weapons temporarily.
So that we can make siege weapons to take down this place.
Yeah, so that way instead of having a defender longsword, I have a defender greatsword. Oh boy. Oh, and then the second important line when concerning ranged weapons. Weapons. Weapons that you make attacks with, they deal an extra 1d4 damage.
Mm-hmm.
And it is when a weapon is enlarged, as long as a weapon is enlarged, right? Mm-hmm. That's how I'm interpreting it. That's how I'm reading the rule now. It deals an additional 1d4 damage.
Right.
And this has created an interesting conundrum. Because as defined by the rules,
yeah,
ammunition is not a weapon.
Yeah.
As long as the weapon is enlarged, the attack deals an extra 1d4 damage.
So, for example, when an arrow leaves your possession,
the arrow will get smaller, but the weapon is still enlarged.
Yeah.
So
good level up.
It creates this nonsense effect.
Mm-hmm.
Where ranged weapons, weapons with the ammunition property.
Yeah.
This rules lawyering is as fun for me as it is frustrating.
Yeah, you're like, I hate it, I love it.
Internally, I love it. Externally, by the time it escapes my mind and has to go live in the world, I hate it because it just, why? Why did they do it? It's such a complicated series of interactions. And it couldn't have only, like, this game is so old. Dungeons and Dragons is so old. And they... I just don't know. I just don't know how to feel about it. Like, it feels like this can't be... This has got to be, like, the 5th edition. I would say that even if it skipped a couple of editions, you know? This is still... They have to have encountered this problem before.
Yeah.
Someone has to have asked the question, if I throw this hand axe at someone, what happens? Does it, as it leaves my hand, it grows smaller? So is it the size? Is it the additional size that deals the additional damage? Or is it the additional force imparted by my now gigantic arm?
Right.
Ha ha! I will throw with great force. So it creates this interesting effect where thrown weapons, in my reading of the rule now, my reading of the spell, they do not benefit from being enlarged. Because as soon as they leave the possession of the thrower, in that moment where it leaves your hand, boom, it reverts to its normal size, and the weapon is no longer enlarged. But somehow you have like this 2-stage missile effect from firing an arrow from a bow.
Yeah.
Where you fire it, and right as soon as it leaves contact with the bow, it shrinks back down to its usual size, but still, maybe it's even more forceful now because it's less massive, but it still has the same energy.
It's all dense now.
Yeah.
That's ridiculous. All of that is ridiculous. It's like they've had so much time to work on this. Why didn't they figure something out already?
And the answer is just because it's crazy. It's crazy magic, you know? I don't know. I know that the designer of the game, I've heard him speak about how for certain spells, if he were to write them today, he would use very different language. I'm thinking about Animate Dead has some problems. I still, whenever I read the Animate Dead spell, I still think of it, I interpret it in a very liberal way that benefits the caster.
Right.
Because I think it says you can target the corpse of a medium creature, and then I think there's something about it that makes me read it, I believe, incorrectly. But there's something about the language that says you can target the corpse of a medium creature, and then like as a separate clause, or a bone pile. And I believe that the intention was you can target the corpse of a medium creature or a skeletal bone pile that previously belonged to a medium creature.
Right.
I believe it is only supposed to be useful for medium creatures. But at some point, I think I was reading in the skeleton section of the of the monster manual for 5e that describes how skeletons do not have to be made out of animated skeletons do not have to be made out of the bones of just a single creature.
Really? So you could make like a pile of rats into a rat king and then just fly it around?
What it's saying is they always have the same basic shape whenever they are animated. They animate themselves into a vaguely humanoid form. So my thought, like the first image I got after reading this section, which is really, it's supposed to be the purview of the Dungeon Master.
Right.
And the monsters that they're making.
Right.
It's not really, I don't think it's supposed to necessarily be applied to creatures that, say, a wizard raises with Animate Dead.
Mm-hmm.
My first thought was, like, I'm going to find the corpse of an elephant. I'm going to animate it. And it is going to be this giant, hulking, forced... It's the bones of an elephant forced into this terrifying, hulking, like, ogre shape. Yeah. That still has, like, all of the bones are still there, and the big tusks are still there, but they're not in the right spot exactly.
Yeah.
But it will just be this huge, terrifying monster. Like, maybe, like, one of them has, like, this horned helm, effectively, where, like, the tusks wind up on top of its head instead of, like, along the jawline.
Yeah.
So it's just, like, this big axe-wielding marauder.
Alrighty.
Make sure that you don't leave Priscilla vulnerable to any of the guys that might skirt around.
Will do.
Okay.
Talk. Watch this.
Oh, we should probably take care of this. You!
So we meet again, boy. Are your little playmates doing well?
You're that wyvern rider. You're working for the Black Fang, aren't you?
You're wrong there. I serve only Burn. I'm here on my own personal agenda. Tell me, boy, are you the one who stopped Prince Zephiel's assassin?
What? How did you...
So it's true, is it? That settles it. From now on, I'm traveling with you.
What are you...
You saved Prince Zephiel, so I owe you.
But why?
I told you, I serve Burn. Prince Zephiel is our future, our hope. You saved him when he needed saving, and now I will serve you.
I see. I'll take you at your word.
Really? Then look for me. I'll be joining you shortly. Like really shortly.
Maybe she meant, like, her caravan of stuff.
And if I just do this,
Aha!
and then go away, and then I can send in my pretty princess to have fun.